All right, let me know if that helped. Let me know if you can see me. We'll try to get into this very quickly so that you get exactly what you came for. Okay, it looks like you're able to see me now. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Great. So I see that everyone sees me now. All right, guys, now you can put a face to the information that you just heard. Again, my name's Chris Marikos, and here I am, now that you can see me. I'm an ESL, or English Teaching Language Business expert. So I do all kinds of things related to teaching English and related to language teaching businesses. So my jobs include recruiting teachers, coaching people who manage language teaching businesses, and it's not only in one place, it's all around the world. And I help people start their own language teaching businesses. So make sure to visit my page, check that out. Also, if you want some free resources, I post 2 free videos every single day, one on YouTube and one in Telegram, and I will make sure to send the links to that after this video is finished. So stick around for that. All right, guys, well, let's talk about our topic today, which is education in the United States. And this is a great topic because this education system might be a little bit different than other countries. And a lot of people actually are interested in moving to the United States and studying there, going to university. But actually, let's put this in perspective. Let's give this topic some context, because the United States does not have the best education system, doesn't have the best results according to statistics. In fact, there are some other countries that have much better education systems. One of them is Finland, for example. Finland traditionally has very strong education, has very good education system. And let's think about why that is. What do they do different? Well, their education system is a lot stronger because the government spends a lot of money on this. And in general, we can say that the region called Scandinavia has countries that have better education systems. So when scientists, when researchers looked at this topic, they found the top countries for education. And most recently, these countries are Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland. So Scandinavian countries. They are at the top of this list. And they found that the biggest difference between these and other countries was the amount of the country's budget that was spent on education. Also, France, they said, has a very strong education system, as well as Australia, Germany, United Kingdom, and Canada. All better than the United States. So I guess it depends on the criteria that we're using to make this decision, right? I see the comment right now. Someone wrote, because Finland is smaller, less people, better to work with. I think that may be true. And so maybe they have less people to educate, right? But on the other hand, have you ever met someone from those Scandinavian countries? Have you ever spoken English with them? I actually have. I've met a lot of people from Scandinavian countries, and every time I meet them, I'm amazed at how good their English is. It's just, I think, built into their society that they speak English and their local language. There was a funny situation that happened. I was in Greece, and next to me, there was a table of older men who they were from Denmark. And when the waiter came to their table at the end of their meal, they said, the waiter said, "Are you finished?" And the man at the table said, "I'm not Finnish, I'm Danish." And I always laugh about that joke. Even though it's such a stupid joke, it was really funny at the time. and yeah, it was funny. So Finnish people are from Finland, Danish people are from Denmark, and we should learn those adjectives as well. But right now we're going to talk more about the education system. I see that there's a comment, can you talk about phrasal verbs? And I know a lot of people that study English and use YouTube to study English might know me from my phrasal verb videos, because every day I release a free phrasal verb video. But sorry, today I'm not going to be talking about phrasal verbs. Maybe next time we'll talk all about phrasal verbs. That's a great topic. But today we're going to talk about the education system in the United States. And I see another comment just came in. What's your favorite accent, British or American? Well, honestly, it's hard for me to be objective in this question because I am American, right? So of course I like how I speak, and for me it sounds more natural the way that people around me speak in the United States. But also, you know, as an English teacher, a lot of people around the world study British English. And that means that I need to know a lot about British English. So, you know, British English is the original English. It's maybe more natural than American English sometimes. But a lot of people today are studying American English in order to do business with people around the world. They are interested in, you know, communicating with people from different countries who learn different types of English. And American English, for some reason, is more widely known as the type of English connected to music, you know, social media, and different things along those lines, like TV shows also. So popular culture. American English is connected to popular culture. British English has been connected to education for a very long time. I see some more comments in the chat right now, so I'm going to try to answer those. Let's see. Why do I need to know American education? That's a really good question. You don't really need to know it. You would need to know it if you were interested in comparing the education system in your country to in the United States. Also, you might want to pay attention to the video today, because I'm going to tell you about some terms and phrases that you might not know connected to education. And I'm going to compare the British and American English variants or different ways that people speak about these things. So I think it'll be useful. Let's see, the next question was, for me, phrasal verbs so hard. This issue has to be memorized. My main problem is preposition. Can you say something about that? Guys, I know phrasal verbs are really difficult, and I know that because I've released so many videos about phrasal verbs that you probably think that I'm the phrasal verb guy. But today's topic is not about phrasal verbs. We'll talk about it another time. But thanks a lot for writing it and telling me that that's what you'd like to see next time. Great. So let's continue about education. First of all, when we talk about education in any country, we probably want to understand that education happens in a cultural context, right? The cultural context of education is that we learn this in a specific country, and there are politics connected to this. For example, if you're learning history, you learn what that country believes history is, or what they promote history to be, right? Different countries have different types of history. So when we compare education systems, it's kind of difficult to say who's better or who's worse, who's right or who's wrong. But we can make some general, not assumptions, but some general conclusions about how this education system works and if that's effective. So let me go back to the chat here. Somebody doesn't agree with me. They think that the American accent is simple and dirty as far as pronunciation, and British English is more beautiful and aristocratic. You know, I would agree with you. Not the beautiful part, because, you know, different people see beauty differently. But aristocratic, absolutely. British English, as far as how it's portrayed or seen in the media, a lot of people associate British English with the Queen, with royalty, whereas American English is, we shorten a lot of things, we change some of the rules, don't follow the rules a lot of times when we speak. I mean, I am a teacher, so that means that I pay attention to these things, to the rules and everything. But a native speaker usually doesn't pay attention to this. Let's see, the next person. What is it like to have a PhD in an American university? Very good question, very on topic, and we will be discussing that today. I'll talk more about PhDs, master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, and other things like that. I should probably tell you about my education. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in international relations. And I also have a certificate to teach English as a foreign language. So all of my educational experience, well, most of my educational experience has been in the United States. But I've moved to many different places in the United States and around the world, so I can tell you a little bit about how they compare. But I did all of my higher education, my university time was spent in the United States. So when we talk about education, there's always some kind of cultural context. And the United States is no different. Something you might not have known is how education systems are set up. And when you think about your country, you might also be thinking, well, I don't even know that about my own country. So why should I know that about another country, right? So what we want to understand about the United States and its education system is that it was very early on in the development of the country. It was inspired, or it was started by religious groups. Yeah. So of course, there was a public education system that was set up, but early on in the United States, religious groups were the majority. There were Protestant groups and there were Catholic groups. So two different types of Christians. And they immigrated to the United States from Europe, mostly from Northwest Europe and the UK. And I see the comment there that my pronunciation is clear. You can understand every comma that I say. Thank you. Thank you. I try to speak clearly so that everyone can understand. So these religious groups came to the United States and they decided that they wanted to make sure that their children, their pupils, learned information that they thought was important. So we saw a lot of private schools and institutions of higher education created during this period of time. That means that, Protestant groups, they would start a private school in one region or one area, and then Catholic children needed to go to this school, but they had to learn things about Protestant Christianity, and their parents didn't like this. So they started helping to create their own schools. And after, many years of this, I don't want to say it was a conflict, but there were some conflicts related to this. After some time, the Catholic and Protestant groups just set up so many schools and education centers that all new people who came to this country went to these institutions. Now, today, we have still a lot of universities, colleges, and private schools that are related to religious groups. Great, let me go back to the chat. Do you speak a foreign language? Yes, I speak Russian. I lived in Russia 8 years, and I have a language center in Russia where American teachers teach English. So I speak Russian, and I've also lived in Italy, so I can speak a little bit of Italian, and I can speak a little Spanish because in America, in the United States, almost everyone learns Spanish at school. So great, back to our topic. Today we have state schools, which are basically government sponsored and government affiliated schools, and we have private schools. The state schools are sometimes called public schools. And when we talk about schools, we can say that there are public and private schools. We can also use these terms about colleges and universities. So we will take a look a little bit deeper at that today. Let's move to our next topic, which is some words about education. And I want to make sure that everyone is clear on some things that I hear students make mistakes on usually. So I'm just going to put this up on the screen there. Where does the education system come from? Well, we just talked about that. That is, you know, usually we think about it as being related to religious groups. Next, talking about comparing words and what these words mean. To study versus to learn. What is the difference? The difference is that when we study something, we're practicing. And when we learn something, we know it at the end. So, for example, when we use this in the present tense, when we talk about right now, study and know are very, very similar. We can use them in the same situations. For example, we can say, right now, I'm studying English. Or we can say, right now, I'm learning English. But when we use these two verbs in the past or in the future, it's very important that we use the right one because they have a different meaning. And that means that we need to be careful when we use them, right? So let's look at some examples. In the past, if I say, yesterday I studied Japanese, this means yesterday I practiced Japanese. I improved my skills. Maybe I did learn some new information, but mostly I was practicing. I studied Japanese yesterday. If I say, I learned Japanese yesterday, this means that I'm finished. I know Japanese now. So that's probably not what I want to say. You know, maybe if I'm a super genius, then yesterday I learned Japanese, tomorrow I'll learn French. But usually that's not what we're talking about. So when we use the verb to learn in the future or in the past, we're really, really, really talking about this final result. Now I know this language. Learning is always about getting new information. So you didn't have this before, or you didn't know this before. And after the learning process is finished, we know, we have this information. That's the difference. Studying is just practicing some information that we already have. Let me go back to the chat because it just got crazy in there. I saw a lot of comments. Let's see. It says, somebody wrote me in Russian. You know Russian? Yeah, right. Who are you? What's your nationality? I'm American, guys. I'm American. All right, what else? Someone said it's understandable when he speaks. Thank you. I'm glad. I try to speak very clearly for you guys. I understand quite well, but it's difficult for me to communicate in English. Some advice? My advice, if it's difficult for you to communicate, but you understand, which means that we need to practice our speaking skills more. This means that you need more practice speaking. So the best way to do this is to find a person, a native speaker who speaks that language and practice with them. Now, I know that, you know, you've probably heard that from everybody. And you're thinking, where am I going to find that person? Well, you know, with the internet and with social media, it's very easy to find native speakers today. Another thing that you can try to do is use websites like Facebook, find groups on Facebook, find forums on other sites. And people usually write in these places, in these groups and forums, in informal English. So that is really going to help you with your speaking skills without you even speaking. Of course, you need to practice speaking with someone somewhere so that you can practice making the words with your own mouth, right? But the closest thing to speaking practice is informal written English, where people are writing in the same way that they speak. And forums and social media sites are going to help you amazingly with this. So let me go back to the chat. I'm also from Brazil. I understand every single word you're saying. Glad for your live video. Well, you're welcome. I hope that that you not only understand me, but you can use the information that I'm giving you. One person said, we may study, but not necessarily learn from that study. However, when we learn something, that means you studied, and we learn. That's all about education. That's true. That's absolutely true. I see that someone wrote, please speak slowly so we can understand you. Okay, sorry. I'll try to speak a little more slowly and clearly. And someone wrote, how can I improve? How can I improve my accent? Well, actually, I just had a teacher training session today about improving accents, where I told teachers how they can help their students improve their accents. And I think that that's a topic for a different video, so I won't talk about it too much right now. But I do have a course called English Hacks. So if you send me a message, I can send you to that. It's really good. It tells you everything about reducing your accent and speaking more naturally. Also, I know I already mentioned it before, but I help language centers around the world find and hire the best teachers, native speaking teachers from countries like the United States, Canada, England, Australia, and other countries. And I also teach a course on how to start your own language teaching business. So if you're interested in that stuff, you can send me a message. My name's Chris Americos. You can find me, you can Google me, pretty easy, or you can follow the links that I will share at the end of this video. So let's go back to some words that we need to know about education. We talked about study and learn. Next, let's talk about diploma and degree. Now, a diploma is a physical piece of paper, and a degree is knowledge that you have in your head. Let's think about it like that. Of course, a university or a college gives you a degree. So in some ways, a diploma and a degree are pretty much the same thing. But a degree is more about this non-physical thing, like your qualification. And the diploma is just a piece of paper. In fact, I have 2 diplomas right here behind me. I'll show them to you in case, you know, diplomas look different in your country. So this is my bachelor's degree. And you can see that on this degree, it says the name of the university. It says Bachelor of Arts, and it says psychology. That's because Bachelor of Arts, it doesn't mean that I studied art. It just means that it wasn't science. And most universities compare or have a difference between science and art. Arts could also be something like humanities. Now let's compare and look at this diploma. This is a master's degree. And this master's degree is from a different university. It's from University of Salve Regina. But you might notice something strange about this diploma, that all of the writing here is not in English. It's actually in Latin. So you might be thinking, why did they do that? Well, Latin and Greek are considered the languages of law, of medicine, and of education, especially Latin today. So have I studied Latin? Yes, I have. I recommend everybody study Latin because you will see parallels between Latin and other countries, other languages everywhere you go. Just Latin had a huge influence. Let's see. Let me go back to the chat and answer a few questions before we continue with our words about education. So let's see, it says, could you make more videos like these? Absolutely, absolutely. I love making videos like these. Next, how can I contact you? I will send links at the end of this video. I'll send them to the chat. And if you don't want to wait, you can go to Google and you can search for Chris Americos, just like what's written in the description of this live video. Another person asked, CELTA or TEFL? That's a good question. And that's more about education of teachers. So let's not talk about it too much today. I myself have a TEFL degree, but went through a CELTA certification course. A little complicated, but I think that CELTA actually prepares teachers better. But a lot of the teachers who I hire have a TEFL. So both of them qualify a teacher. If you are not a native speaker and you want to become a qualified teacher, I recommend doing the TKT exam, the teacher knowledge test. And this will give you a certificate to be a teacher as well. Let's see, another comment here. There's no way to practice our speaking than speak with native speakers or even non-native speakers. I have a friend from India. Sometimes it's really hard to understand his accent, but it's helped me a lot with my listening and speaking as well. That's great. I think that that's excellent. Even if you can't find a native speaker to speak with, definitely find someone to practice with. The more you practice, the more you try, and the more you practice creating these sounds with your mouth, the better you're going to get. So it's just a matter of time and practice. Another question, did you study psychology? Yes, I did. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. And we'll talk a little bit more about bachelor's degrees and different things connected to that here in a minute. Let's see, another question was, sorry, land, which was the word you said you studied? The word that I said I studied. Well, I said that I studied psychology and international relations for my master's degree. And let's see, another question here. Hi, I'm from Colombia, but I live in Canada. I'm learning English here. I think it's hard to speak English. I'm really glad that you're using this time for us. Teach pronunciation, please. Thank you. Okay, I will definitely keep that in mind. I think that our next video will be more about pronunciation or about phrasal verbs because so many of you have written here. Great. Let me continue with words about education that we need to know. The next one, it's related to what you were asking about psychology. It's called a major. Let's see. Now someone wrote in the chat, something doesn't matter. Sorry, guys, I think I missed that part of the chat, but let's go back to the vocabulary. Major. To major in something, as a verb, to major in something, means that that's your specialization. That's what you learned the most about. So I can say that I majored in psychology at university. Now, in the UK, they might not use major. They might say, what did you go in for? And you can answer, I went in for psychology. So there are different ways to talk about this depending on the country that you're from or the country where the person's from that you're speaking to. And major is your main specialization, but also in the United States, we might also talk about minors. And I know it sounds the same as a miner, like a person in a mine who gets gold or other metal, but that's not what it is. It's spelled differently. A minor is actually a sub-specialization. So, for example, my diploma says I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. That means I majored in psychology. However, my diploma doesn't say that I also minored in philosophy. And that means that I also took courses to specialize in philosophy. So I know something about philosophy, but it's not written in my diploma. Now, how do we know which classes I took or what I studied in general? This is a piece of paper called a transcript. And this basically says what your classes were and it also tells us your grades or scores in those courses. So when we don't really use a transcript very often. We don't talk about it so often. Very few employers, when you go to apply for a job, very few of them will ask you for your transcript. Most of them will ask you just for, just to tell you that you have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD or something else from a university. And you might be thinking, well, what? They just believe you? Everybody could lie. Well, it's really hard to lie about this in the United States because the employer can just pick up the phone, call the university, and look at their records. Request that they send a record of you going to that university, or they confirm that that was you. And of course, the university will not say that you went there if you haven't paid for courses. So let's go to the next term, which a lot of people confuse. This term is faculty. And for some reason, people confuse this term with the term department. Well, this is not a department. This is actually the people who work in a department. Yeah, people who work in a department, we call them faculty. And the faculty of a university are like the staff of the university. They are the ones who work there and provide services to students. So when we talk about faculty, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about just a department. Great. Next, let's discuss pupil and student. What is the difference between a pupil and a student? Well, a lot of you have probably learned by studying British English that a pupil goes to school. A pupil is a child, and a student goes to university. Student is an adult, but this is true for British English. Usually they use this differentiation. However, in the United States, we usually say student about everybody. We can say student about a child at school, about someone at university, and even someone who is learning something who might be 70 or 80 years old. We can say that they're a student. So anybody who studies something is a student in American English. Let me go back to the chat here real quick and answer some of the questions that you guys have written in. So let's see. Hi from Mexico City. Hey guys, how you doing down there with all of the earthquakes? It's crazy. Someone wrote, hi from Pompeii, Italy. Hi, I used to live in Italy. I lived in Sicily for 2 years. That was in 2000 and 2001. I really love Italy, beautiful country. And let's see, another question that someone has written here is, major is used to express something else. Major change must be done. Yes, you're correct. The word major might also mean serious or important or main. So your example is correct. Major change must be made to make a change. This means a very serious change must be made. Let's see, and someone has written, what are your suggestions about teaching English for kids? If they have prejudice about English, what do we need to do? Thank you in advance. That's a great, great question. And I wish that I had more time to discuss it. It sounds like a good topic for a separate video. But when it comes to teaching kids, and when it comes to teaching anyone, really, but we can see this more clearly with kids, motivation is the most important factor. When someone has motivation, they are able to do things on their own. They will take initiative. They will try to learn this topic in their free time. And honestly, guys, as a teacher, you have a very small amount of time to have contact with someone. And I think that it is not correct that a lot of people think that the time that they have with the teacher is this magical time where they're going to get this information or knowledge that they need just by listening to a teacher talk. The best thing that a teacher can do, and especially for children, is make someone love the language and make someone love studying the language. If a teacher can make a student love studying English, it doesn't matter how good of a teacher that person is. If they really know the content of how to teach English as a foreign language, or if they, if they're educated in this, if they're qualified, if they have certificates, doesn't matter. If they can make someone love studying English, then they will get better results than anyone else. So to answer your question, if someone has a prejudice about studying English, or they have a problem or an issue with it, we want to motivate them and we want to make them love it. That should be our main focus. So guys, let's get back to our terminology about studying. I told you that in the United States, people might use the word student interchangeably. So they might use the word student to talk about people at school, university, but in British English, they'll usually use two different words, pupil and student. And here's another big difference. The difference between school, college, and university. And in different places, these things might mean something different. So let's first talk about school. Again, school is usually for children, right? And in British English, usually we use the word school only for this. However, in American English, we can use school about any place where people go and learn. So just like we can say a student is anyone who studies something, we could say that a school is any institution that teaches. We even have a verb, to school someone, which basically means to show them how something works. And when we are talking about this difference, it's important to remember that. I remember a situation when I was in Russia, and in Russia, they have a very strict difference between, pupil, student, school, university. And that's why it was very, it was hard for me to remember this difference, because as an American person, not knowing about this difference, it led to some mistakes. So there was a funny situation. I tell someone, I have to meet my girlfriend after school when she finishes school today. And the person looks at me and says, what? How old is your girlfriend? And then I remembered, oh, that's right. People don't know that in American English, I can say school about a university. So they didn't understand. They thought that, she's in school. It means she's a little child. And instead, I should say that when she finishes university today. Another big misunderstanding is that in the United States, a lot of people will say college instead of university. So they'll say, yeah, I'm in college, but they actually go to an educational institution that is called a university, but they'll call it a college. So again, this is not a big difference for American people, but in other countries, it might be a big difference. Now, why is it like that? Probably because in the United States, the difference between a college and a university is not very big. There's actually just a small technical difference. Universities offer doctoral programs, or PhD programs. If a university stops offering PhD programs, they technically become a college. And a lot of these institutions change their names, actually. When they add a PhD program, they call themselves university. Now, in general, people do think that universities are a little more prestigious or better than colleges. But every college and every university is a little bit different. But that's about the United States. Remember that. In other countries, these terms mean something else. So, in the UK, a college is something like another type of school that someone might transition into, or something between university and school. Whereas university is completely different. It's higher education. So let's go back to the chat, answer a few more of the questions that you guys have written here. Let's see. A lot of people are coming in. Oh, I see Ryan and David joined us. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. Let's see. From Buenos Aires. Hi. I've been to Buenos Aires, and it's a very, very beautiful city. I really like it. I'm glad that you're joining in today. Someone wrote here, when my daughter was very little, when my daughter was very little, I tried to teach her English by singing songs to her. She hated it. She would ask, no, sing in Portuguese, Mom, so I gave up. She's 13 now and loves English. It's a matter of time. That's great. That's a great example of how, you might not see the results of, you might not see motivation at first, but over time, you can build that up and build up that love and make this activity of studying the language something fun and something that people want to do. I would also say that it sounds like if she wanted you to sing in Portuguese, that probably you either lived in a Portuguese language environment, like a place where most people around spoke Portuguese in public, or that you have a very, very strong Portuguese household language environment. Because typically students will start speaking, when they have the option to speak two languages as children, when they are bilingual or the parents want them to be bilingual or trilingual, the parents will usually set up some kind of household language environment where they try to speak a language to the child. It doesn't matter what we do, every child will find a main language. The difference between the first language and the second language might not be very big, but everyone has a first language. And usually that's going to be the dominant language in the immediate or closest language environment. Great. Let's see, another comment here. I'm from Georgia, the country. Thanks for specifying. How often do you have lessons? How often do you have live lessons? Is there any schedule? And if yes, where can I see it? I'm very interested in this kind of lesson. Thanks for asking this question. And I've already said it a couple times, but I'll say it again. I release free videos every single day on my YouTube channel and on my Telegram channel. So you can check those out first. And also, there's no schedule about these live videos, but I try to do them often, and I'm going to try to do it at least once a week. And you can just follow the links that I'm going to write in the comments after this video. I'll send a link to my Telegram group, to my YouTube channel, to website, to my Facebook page, Facebook group, everything. So you'll be able to find me, and you'll be able to be aware of future lessons by following those links. All right. Let's see. Another question. What about master's degree? Master's degree, same as a university degree. Yes, master's degree is a university degree, and we will talk about that in 1 second. I see another related question here. PhD means Doctor of Philosophy, for the ones who don't know the meaning. Thank you for writing that in the chat so that everyone knows what I'm talking about. Thanks for the help. So let's go back. And all right, now we're going to talk about levels, different stages of education. Yeah, so first of all, we have preschool. Preschool, usually this prefix pre means before, right? So we can say preschool is like before school, or it's the first type of school that we go to. It's before kindergarten, and it is you know, it's optional. It's not something that's required. So not everybody goes to preschool. When we go to kindergarten, in some places in the United States, kindergarten is required. In some states, it's not required, it's optional. So kindergarten, most people have gone through kindergarten. Not everyone has gone through preschool. A lot of times people who go to preschool are those kids whose parents work and they need to, a preschool is kind of like having a babysitter, but also kind of helping a child get ready for school. Great. So let's see. Another question. I'm from Poland. I work at kindergarten. Do you have same or different vocabulary? I'm not sure about vocabulary from Poland. However, we are going to talk about this vocabulary in English and how it might be different in different countries. Another word for preschool is nursery school. So if you hear preschool or nursery school, this is optional before real school. And if you hear kindergarten, this might be part of the required school system, or it might not be. Then we have primary school. That's in England. Or in the United States, we call it elementary school. And this is where we have our grades or years of school. So there are 12 years or grades in American English or in British English forms. There are 12 grades in the American school system, and that does not count kindergarten. So years 1 through 4, that's primary school, that's elementary school. Then years 5 through 8, that's middle school or intermediate school. Middle school or intermediate school. And again, this might be a separate building. It might be in a separate location. It might, there are lots of different ways that this happens in different parts of the United States. So in some places, all three, you know, elementary school, middle school, and high school, they might all be in one building. In other places, they're separated into different buildings. Another name for middle school or intermediate school is junior high school. Junior high. So again, that's years 5 through 8. Then with years 9 through 12, we call it high school. High school is probably the the one that people know the most because they see it in films and they hear lots of information about it. High school is years 9 through 12, and this is where people finish their schooling, they do standardized tests, and they get ready to go to a university or a college. All right, I see a lot of comments here in the chat, so I'm going to go back and answer some of those real quick. One of the questions, do American parents like to homeschool their children? I have to say yes, but again, this is a generalization because not all parents like to homeschool their children. I can't say it about all American parents, but I can say that in my family, my mother homeschooled me for 2 years and homeschooled my brothers for most of their life. So yeah, I can say that some Americans like homeschooling. However, some people think that it's not good because students and children don't get enough social skills. Let's see, another question. Preschool is like daycare. Yes, preschool is like daycare. However, preschool is more focused on introducing children to how life will be when they have to go to school every day, whereas daycare is more like a babysitter. Another question. Hi, I am Amir from Egypt. I'm an English trainer. It'd be great to keep in touch with you. I have so many questions to ask you when you have time. Amir, follow the links that I'm going to share at the end of this video, and we will definitely get in touch. I do teacher training also, and I also teach a course on how to start your own language teaching business, a couple things that you might be interested in. So let's talk about that later. Let's see, another question here. In the Georgian Republic, we also have 12 grades of secondary school. Yes, thank you for using this term, secondary school. So in American English, we have intermediate school or junior high, and then we have high school. But in the UK, usually both of these things are one concept called secondary school. Great. And so let's go back. After high school, you might go to a college or you might go to a university. And I already explained the difference between them. A university has PhD programs. But of course, you're not studying for a PhD immediately. You're studying for your bachelor's degree. That's the first step usually, the bachelor's degree. However, there is another degree that you could get before your bachelor's degree. It's called an associate's degree. Associate's degree. And an associate's degree typically takes 2 years to complete. You can get an associate's degree from a college usually, but not a lot of universities offer associate's degrees, although big ones probably do. Then we can get a bachelor's degree. A bachelor's degree usually takes about 4 years. Now, when I tell you that it takes 4 years or 2 years or whatever, that depends on your program, that depends on your university. Every place is different. It's not very standardized. Every university is different. Every program at the university is different. For example, my bachelor's degree, the program was planned for 4 years, but I didn't go home in the winter and in the summer. I just studied more, and I finished my program in 3 years. So that's why I can say that you can definitely finish a program faster, or you can take longer. It's very flexible. So yeah, college and university. And then a lot of people don't know about this, but after university or part of a university is something called a graduate school. And a graduate school is usually for master's degree programs and for PhDs or doctoral programs. And a student who is a university student, we might say that they are an undergraduate student. And a student who is in a master's degree or PhD program, we might say that they are a graduate student, which means that they have already graduated from university once, and now they're continuing their education. All right, guys, that's a lot about the education process, about words about education in the United States. I told you a little bit about the history, how the education system got started, came mostly from religious groups that immigrated to the United States. And I told you a lot about myself, that I am a certified English teacher. I've been teaching since 2009. And I'm also a language teaching business owner and manager and director. I also do HR for language centers, and I recruit teachers for language centers around the world. And I also do teacher training, and I teach the course on how to start your own language teaching business. So if any of those things are interesting, you can follow the links that I'm going to write in the comments section under this video. And I hope that all of this material was very useful for you. In the last few minutes here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a funny picture or a few funny pictures up on the screen, and I'm going to go back to the chat and answer those last questions that you had there. So the first funny picture that we have talks about 4 years of high school or 4 years of university. So we have special words that we use about these 4 years. They're the same for high school and for university. So sometimes we have to tell a person what we're talking about. So your first year of high school, you're called a freshman. And your first year of university, you're called a freshman. So someone might ask you, oh, you're at university, what year are you? Or what year are you in? And this means you should say, first year, second year, third year. But usually we answer in the United States, oh, I'm a freshman. I'm a freshman at university. I'm a freshman in college. I'm a freshman at high school. So a lot of people will use these terms. The second year is sophomore. The third year is junior. And the fourth year is senior. And for people who can't finish their education in 4 years, if they're in their fifth year, we jokingly call them super senior. Yeah. So let me go back to some of the comments that are in the chat here. Let's see. It says, Do American children really finish school at the age of 12? In Poland, they finish at 19, and then they go to university. No, they don't finish at the age of 12 in the United States. I would say that typically people finish university at the age of 18 or 19, sometimes 17. And that's because we have 12 years of school. And we usually start when we are 4 or 5 years old, or sometimes 6 years old. And that's why 17, 18, 19 is typically the year that we stop. Great. I see lots of people writing. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Thank you guys. Thanks for participating. Thanks for being here. Thanks for writing comments. Those comments are really good. It lets me know that you guys are listening and that I should focus on other topics next time. Let's see, another question. My son is 13 years old, has a dream of going to study at Harvard Business School. Wow. We live in Portugal. Please tell me if he should do high school in Portugal or in the EU. Thank you so much. Well, I think that it would be helpful for your son, if he wants to get into Harvard, to go to a college or a school, high school, that has some kind of prestigious name already. This might be connected to another university. There are also some courses that people can start taking from Harvard University if they want to go there. So I would say that you need to look into programs like pre-university programs that Harvard has to offer, and he should start participating in those. Although, you know, Harvard Business School is one of the top business schools in the world, so you know, it is a difficult question. I can't really say for sure what you should do specifically, but I would say look at pre-university courses. All right, well, we're bringing this to the end, and I see that a couple more people have joined in. Mark, David, hi guys. Great, so, all right guys, I told you already at the beginning of this video that my name's Chris Americos, and you can find my daily videos that I do for free on YouTube, on Telegram, and I'm going to send all of the links into the chat right now. If you guys don't know where to find the chat, if you're watching this video because I shared it on my page or in my group, then you'll see that I shared it from a page called English is Fun. This is an awesome, awesome, awesome group for learning English. So you should go check out the comments section, go check out the chat there. I'm about to write all of the links right there so you can find everything that I was talking about. And make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the page, English is Fun, make sure you follow them, and check out their other platforms because they're doing a great job helping people learn English all over the world. Thanks again, guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the comments. And I'm going to try to do this more frequently, let's say next week. I would love to do it next week. Hopefully everything works out and you will see an update or some news about the video that will happen next week. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. It's been great, and take care.